Grandma's touching moment with waitress reveals hidden connection billionaire's life-changing epiphany. In the heart of a small Midwestern town, a diner buzzed with life as Grandma Ruth flipped pancakes on the griddle, filling the air with the warm, inviting aroma of comfort food. The cheerful clatter of forks and knives, mixed with friendly laughter, painted a picture of community thriving amidst simple pleasures. On this particularly bustling afternoon, however, the usual warmth was tinged with tension. Clara, a young waitress, darted between tables, her hands laden with plates while struggling to keep her composure. The weariness in her eyes mirrored the weight of her life. A single mother working 2 other jobs, trying to support her son and her ailing mother. She forced a smile, but the trembling of her lips betrayed her exhaustion. As she served a table of regulars, a tear slipped down her cheek, silent evidence of her desperate struggle. Grandma Ruth, with her wise, wrinkled hands and kind gaze, noticed. The sight broke her heart. "Clara, darling," she said softly, pulling her aside. "Come sit with me for a moment." Grandma's voice, steady and soothing, drew Clara in like an anchor in a storm. "I know things can feel heavy," Grandma began, her eyes twinkling with understanding. "When I was your age, I faced my own storm. I lost my husband and had to raise 3 kids on my own. There were days I worked from dawn till dusk, feeling like hope was just out of reach. But every time I felt like giving up, I remembered that I had my community. They supported me, just like I'm going to support you." The warm embrace of Grandma's story sparked a light in Clara's eyes, providing a flicker of hope in her darkest moments. The diner, filled with conversations and laughter, felt like a sanctuary, a place where struggles mingled with compassion. Unbeknownst to them, in a dim corner booth sat a billionaire named Jason, visiting from Boston. He watched, transfixed, as Grandma's kindness unfolded like a tapestry woven with strands of resilience and love. He hadn't felt such raw humanity in years, a stark contrast to his plush life, far removed from such struggles. As Clara wrestled with mounting pressures, she received a phone call that changed everything. Grandma watched as Clara's face crumpled, details shared in hushed, frantic tones becoming unbearable burdens. Jason leaned closer, full of questions, feeling a shift within himself about wealth and the chasm it created between lives. The diner continued to hum with life, but tension grew. Clara, the target of judgmental glances from a few customers, bore the brunt of society's prejudice for not doing enough. Grandma intervened, standing up for Clara, but Jason felt conflicted. The weight of kindness cornered him, forcing him to question his privilege. "Grandma, it's not fair," she's trying her best. His voice broke the din, catching everyone's attention, including Clara's. He stood at the crossroads of understanding, tired of a life insulated from struggle, grappling with his own identity. When Grandma met his gaze, a flicker of connection ignited a challenge to see beyond surface-level success. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." In that moment, surrounded by the chaotic symphony of the diner, Grandma's love ignited a spark of resolve in Clara. As she stood strong before judgment, Grandma stood by her side, whispering words of power and support in a world that often emphasized weakness. The space felt electric, filled with tension and the promise of change. Jason realized this was where he belonged, where lives intertwined, struggles met support, and the American spirit of resilience pulsed vibrantly. The diner became a battleground for ideals. Would he retreat back into his life of privilege, or could he step forward and embrace the lessons learned among the comforting aromas of home-cooked meals? It was as if time paused in that bustling diner. The clatter of dishes faded into the background, overshadowed by a new kind of noise, the pounding of Jason's heart. Clara's tears, her struggle laid bare, had cracked open something inside him that had long been sealed away. He remembered the corporate meetings filled with hollow promises and polite smiles, devoid of real emotion. This moment felt raw and real. Jason took a breath, trying to silence the voices in his head urging him to remain an observer. "I want to help," he blurted out, surprising even himself. The warmth of his words hung in the air, thick with possibility. He moved forward, crossing the distance between his booth and the duo of strong women standing together. "Clara," he said gently, drawing her focus. "I know I'm just a stranger, but if you need anything financial help, someone to talk to, I can help." His offer tumbled from his lips, uncertain but filled with an earnestness that surprised everyone present. The diner seemed to hold its breath. Clara blinked, caught in the web of emotion. "You don't know anything about me," she replied, defiantly crossing her arms, but with uncertainty clouding her features. "Why would you care?" Jason felt the weight of her words. "Because I see you," he said, conviction steady in his voice. "And it matters to me what happens to you." Grandma Ruth smiled faintly, sensing the intangible threads weaving between the three of them. She still stood firm beside Clara, her strength an unyielding shield. "Men like Jason don't usually look our way," Clara shot back, skepticism lacing her words. "Why should I trust someone who lives in a mansion when I'm struggling just to keep our lights on?" Tension crackled like electricity as a few other diners leaned closer, intrigued by the unfolding drama. To Jason, Clara's guardedness was a challenge, a small fortress built from pain and disappointment, but also one with cracks that let light filter through. "Because I want to understand," he replied softly, looking directly into Clara's eyes as if daring her to see the truth behind his wealth. "I want to know the real stories that aren't told in business meetings or boardroom stories like yours." Clara softened, just a little. Maybe it was the sincerity in his voice or the way he didn't flinch from her anger. She regarded him with cautious curiosity. "And what if I tell you my story? What then?" "Then maybe you'll open up a path for both of us," he said, a spark of excitement igniting in him. "If I'm going to change my life, I want to do it here, with people who matter." The diner filled with a slight murmur, whispers of disbelief and hope twirling in the atmosphere. Grandma leaned in, her heart swelling with hope as she sensed this moment could lead to something extraordinary. "Clara," she urged gently, "you're standing in your own power. Don't you see? This is your chance." But a cloud of doubt still loomed over Clara like a dark shadow. She wanted to believe in kindness, in generosity, but years of struggle had taught her to be wary. And what if it's a mistake? Jason took a step closer, his voice dropping to a murmuring promise. "Then let us make it together. If you trust me, I promise I won't let you down." The air felt heavy with 1,000 unspoken words, and Clara's heart raced with the weight of decision. Could she take the leap? Could she accept help from someone who'd never known hardship? In that sweet, conflicted silence, Clara's thoughts raced, and Grandma squeezed her hand, a silent beacon of support. She could feel the tide shifting, a moment teetering on the edge of hope and uncertainty. What would Clara choose? And how would Jason handle the unexpected consequences of stepping into a world filled with real struggle and real people? As these questions loomed large, a sudden crash echoed from the kitchen, breaking them from the tension, and another twist awaited just around the corner. The crash came from the kitchen, a loud metallic clang that interrupted the heavy silence. All eyes turned toward the bustling entryway where the kitchen staff scurried, trying to gather what had spilled over. Clara flinched, her heart racing anew, distracted by the chaos that flared right after her moment of vulnerability. It was a reminder, perhaps, of the unpredictable nature of life, the messes that could spill over without warning. Jason's gaze flicked between Clara and the kitchen, eager to regain the connection they had forged, however gentle it had been. "You all right?" he asked quietly, reading the unease swirling around her. Clara glanced back at him, her walls momentarily slipping. I want to believe you," she admitted, the fight in her voice fading to a whisper. "But what if this ends up being more disappointing than the last time I reached out?" Before Jason could answer, Grandma Ruth took a step forward, leaving Clara's side for the first time. A gentle resolve shone in her eyes as she approached the waitress cleaning up the mess in the kitchen. "Darling, let me help you with that," she offered, smoothing her hands on her apron like a mother comforting a child. The waitress looked caught off guard but brushed her hair back with an appreciative smile, revealing a vulnerability that mirrored Clara's. "It's all right, Ma'am. Just a little accident," she said, brushing some crumbs from the countertop. But Grandma, undeterred, moved closer, her presence radiating warmth. Sometimes we drop things, don't we? Let me show you a trick to clean it up faster, she said, her voice soothing like honey. There was something profoundly touching about that moment, the quiet linking of lives intertwined within fleeting seconds. As Clara watched her grandmother lend comfort and act of compassion that surged through generations, something shifted inside her. She turned back to Jason, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I'm scared, she confessed, her voice trembling slightly. I feel like I'm constantly putting up walls to protect myself, but I can't keep living like this. What does trusting someone even look like? The tension in Jason's jaw relaxed as he contemplated the weight of her words. It's not about always knowing what to do, he said softly. It's about the choice to take a step forward, little by little. If you open up, you might be surprised what you find. Clara looked at him, torn and hopeful. The atmosphere in the diner was thick with anticipation, as if the very walls were braced for her decision. Okay, she whispered finally, though she could hardly believe it herself. I'll share what I can, but you've got to promise me it'll be real. Jason nodded, feeling a rush of warmth fill the space between them. I promise. I want to know you. In that moment, amid the clatter of dishes and the soft hum of chatter, Clara felt a flicker of light breaking through the darkness. She reached for Jason's hand, uncertainty lacing through her, but tinged with a newfound courage. But as their fingers touched, the kitchen door swung open abruptly, a harried manager rushing in with a panicked look. Clara, we need you, there's an emergency. Panic whipped through Clara as she pulled back, her heart racing once more. It felt as though the universe was snatching away her moment just as she was beginning to grasp it. Jason, startled, glanced around the diner, unsure of what had just taken place. Clara, the manager shouted again, urgency in his voice. The moment hung there, fragile, as both Jason and Clara exchanged a look filled with unspoken questions. Will you be okay? He asked, gripping her hand tightly for a fleeting instant as if to anchor her. I have to go, she breathed, her spirit wavering under the pressure. Feeling the weight of impending choice as she turned to leave, amidst an uproar of emotions and unanswered questions, the question lingered in the air. Would she take one step back toward trust, or run away from it all? Jason watched her retreat with a mix of hope and fear. What had begun as a simple day in a diner was spiraling into something greater and deeper. As Clara rushed toward the kitchen, Jason could only wonder what was waiting at the other end of her decisions. Was it truly the beginning of a connection, or merely another detour in a life fraught with obstacles? Clara hurried into the kitchen, her heart pounding as she tried to shake off the moment that had just slipped through her fingers. The chaos inside was palpable, a whirl of flustered voices and clanging pots. Steam curled up from the stoves, adding to the humid atmosphere, thickening the air around her. She spotted the manager, a young man named Tom, trying to get everyone's attention. Clara, he called out again, spotting her in the fray. We have a problem with the fryer. It's overheating, and we need you to help fix it before it gets worse. He gestured toward a small huddle of staff looking visibly distressed. Without hesitation, Clara stepped forward, her instinct as a worker kicking in. Amidst the uncertainty of her feelings toward Jason, here was something she could control. She moved quickly, her hands working deftly as she assessed the situation. The fryer had been left on high, oil bubbling dangerously close to the edge. Everyone back off. Give me some space. She barked, her voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. The crew stepped back, watching her with bated breath. Clara focused on the task, her mind temporarily free from her cluttered thoughts about trust and vulnerability. She swiftly adjusted the dial, reducing the heat, and wiped away the anxious sweat from her brow. As she battled the fryer, a soft voice broke through the tension. It was the waitress from earlier, the one Grandma Ruth had comforted. You're good at this, she said, a shy smile on her face. You really seem to know what you're doing. Clara looked up, catching the glimmer of gratitude in the waitress's eyes. Thanks. Just trying to keep the place running. By the looks of it, you're saving us all, the waitress replied. Clara felt warmth spread in her chest. There was something refreshing about the appreciation. It was a small reminder that she was not alone, and that though she was navigating her worries and fears, others depended on her too. All right, Tom exclaimed as he clapped his hands together, the crisis averted. Everyone back to normal. We need to keep up our service. Relief washed over Clara as she took a step back, the adrenaline of the moment dissipating. She felt grounded again, solid in the role she played rather than lost in the chaotic whirl of emotions. But then her thoughts turned back to Jason, his tender look, and the conversation left hanging at the diner table. She had almost opened up, almost let him in. Across the kitchen, she spotted him through the doorway, his brow furrowed as he scanned the scene. For a moment, their eyes caught one another, and Clara felt a flicker of something: fear, hope, maybe even a tinge of love. It was a reminder of the bond they had begun crafting, however fragile it might be. Clara, Tom's voice broke her reverie. We need you out front again. You okay to manage a few tables? Yeah, of course, she replied, turning to head back into the diner. A flood of uncertainty surged again. Would Jason still be waiting? Would he wonder if she had run away from their conversation? As she walked into the main area, the sounds of laughter and sizzling food washed over her. She spotted Jason sitting at the same booth, leaning forward, his gaze intent. He looked up as she approached, a hopeful expression on his face. Hey, he said softly, a smile breaking through the lingering worry in his eyes. Everything okay? Yeah, we're all good now, she replied, but uncertainty laced her words. She hesitated, desperately wanting to reach out again, but fear sat heavy in her stomach. Can we talk? He asked, his voice encouraging yet cautious, as if he could sense the walls she was still trying to hold intact. Clara glanced around the bustling diner and then back at him. I don't know if I'm ready, she admitted, her heart thudding painfully. Suddenly, the weight of what lay ahead loomed over her. If she took this step, there was no going back. What would it mean for her walls, her fears? But in that moment of quiet introspection, another thought popped into her mind, one filled with both trepidation and excitement. What if trusting Jason could break those walls down? What if it could lead her to something wonderful? As she stood before him, uncertainty swirling in her chest, one question echoed in her mind. Could she dare to step forward and unveil the layers that kept her hidden? Clara's heart raced as she stood before Jason, the world around them fading into a blur. The noise of clinking dishes and chatter faded away, leaving only the weight of his gaze on her. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, wind rushing through her hair, urging her to leap. Clara. His voice was a gentle nudge, breaking the spell that held her captive. It was infused with hope, a spark that lit her resolve. Okay, let us talk, she replied, almost too quietly for him to hear. Her stomach knotted tighter, but she pushed through. She slumped into the booth across from him, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Good, he said, his smile widening, but she could see the flicker of apprehension in his eyes. I was getting worried. I know things have felt off since. Well, just wanted to make sure you're all right. Clara took a breath, grazing her fingers over the surface of the table. The familiar would felt reassuring, almost grounding in that moment. I've been thinking, she began, the words leaving her lips like a hesitant whisper, about trust and how hard it is for me. I get it, he replied, leaning in slightly. It's not easy to let someone in, but you don't have to do it all at once. She glanced up, searching for sincerity in his eyes. How do you do it? Let people in? Jason's expression softened, revealing a vulnerability that struck her. Honestly, it's terrifying. I used to build walls around myself, too. But after my dad passed, I realized that life is too short to keep people at a distance. If you care about someone, it's worth taking the leap. His words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Clara felt something shift inside her. Perhaps letting her walls down didn't mean losing control. Maybe it could open up a whole new world. What if I fall? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Then I'll catch you, he responded, determination anchoring his tone. His earnestness ignited something within her, a flicker of courage that called on her to act against her fears, but doubt still lingered, nagging at her. And what if it doesn't work? What if I get hurt again? He paused, tilting his head slightly, as if considering her fears. That's the risk we take when we care about someone. It might hurt sometimes, but it's moments with people that make us grow, right? Clara's heart felt heavy, but in a way that hinted at new possibilities. If I want to trust you, what does that even look like? Jason nodded, not rushing to respond. It means being honest about how we feel every fear, every joy, no matter how small. The more we share, the closer we get. His sincerity filled the air, wrapping around Clara like a warm embrace. The chaos of the diner faded into a distant memory as she locked eyes with him. She could see the genuine concern and affection there, and for a brief moment, tension loosened its grip. But just as she felt herself teetering on the edge of comfort, the door swung open, and the bell jingled loudly. A gust of cold air rushed in, bringing with it a tall figure draped in a slick black coat. Clara's breath hitched in her throat as she recognized the newcomer, a man she'd never expected to see. Jason, the man bellowed, striding toward their booth, oblivious to the weighty moment that hung in the air. Anger flared in Jason's expression, and Clara felt her heart sink. Could this unexpected interruption ruin everything? Would she lose this fragile connection before she even dared to embrace it? "Who is that?" she whispered, her instincts suddenly roaring to life once again. Jason's flustered look only deepened her worry, as the man's eyes glinted with mischief. What if he brought news or complications that would tear them apart? As she searched his face for answers, a sudden thought struck her. Would she let yet another fear take control? Or could this be a moment to trust after all? The stakes just got higher, and just when she thought she might leap forward, everything seemed to falter. What would happen next? Clara's heart hammered in her chest as the newcomer approached. She stole a glance at Jason, searching his face for clues. Anger and tension wrestled for dominance in his eyes, and she could sense the weight of memories and unresolved conflicts crammed into the space between them. "Jason, we need to talk," the man said, stopping short at their booth. His voice, slick and commanding, sent an electric shock through the air. "Not now, Eric. This isn't the time," Jason replied, his voice strained as he tried to keep his anger in check. "Of course it's the time," Eric shot back, his confidence unshaken. "You think you can just forget everything because you found some?" He glanced at Clara, the word hovering like a vulture. "A distraction?" Clara felt small under Eric's scrutiny. The warmth of the moment with Jason quickly wilted away, replaced by an icy chill that crept into her bones. She wanted to shrink down, to disappear, but instead, she clung to the edge of the table, gripping it as if it were a lifeline. "Don't talk about her like that," Jason snapped, his face tightening. "Clara is nothing like what you think." "Is that what she is to you? Just nothing like?" Eric sneered, crossing his arms with a haughty expression. "You don't really think you can have a normal relationship after everything, do you?" Jason's fists clenched, and Clara could feel the storm brewing in his chest. Every word out of Eric's mouth felt like a jab, and she hated how vulnerable it made her. Was she really just a distraction? Was their moment of connection just a fleeting illusion? Clara cleared her throat, deciding she couldn't stand by silently anymore. "Who are you, and what do you want from him?" Her voice cut through the charged air, surprising even herself. Eric's mature facade crumbled for just a second, revealing a hint of surprise. "I'm Jason's cousin. I'm here to help. Or at least, I was, before you came along." "Help?" Clara raised an eyebrow, pushing back against her urge to show weakness. "By jeopardizing his happiness?" Jason shot her a grateful look, a flicker of admiration brightening his eyes. "Clara is more than just some fling, Eric. She's different." "Different?" "Yeah, that's what all guys say when they're blinded by something shiny. Face it, you're about to go off the deep end." The tension swelled like a brewing storm. Clara glanced around the diner, suddenly aware of the other patrons staring at them with curiosity. Their eyes felt like hot coals, pricking at her skin. She wanted to drown in the warmth of the moment with Jason, not stand here caught in a battle she didn't ask for. "That's not how it is," Jason said, determination lacing his voice. "I know what I want, and right now it's here. With Clara." Eric shrugged, dismissing Jason's words as if they were insignificant. "Just remember, you can't run from your past. I'll be waiting when you come back to reality." As he turned to leave, Clara felt her heart sag with uncertainty. Did she just witness the fragility of what they were beginning to build? She swallowed hard, unsure of what to say next, the moment still raw and ragged. "Jason, is he right?" she finally asked, her voice trembling. "Can you really have a normal life with everything that has happened?" He met her gaze, eyes steady despite the tumult swirling inside him. "I want that life here with you more than anything," he said, his sincerity sweeping over her like a gentle tide. But beneath that promise, she could still see the turbulence of doubt. Did they both have the strength to face their pasts and fight for what they wanted? Just then, a waitress approached, her smile bright but worried. "Everything okay here? You seem a bit tense." Before they could answer, Clara knew the space between them could shift again. She had a choice to make. Would she let her fears dictate her next steps, or would she take Jason's hand and leap into the unknown? As they sat in the tense silence, one possibility raced through her mind. What if they could fight through this together? And what if the biggest challenge was yet to come? The waitress nodded, sensing the heaviness that hung between Clara and Jason. "I'll just give you a moment," she said softly, retreating to the counter but casting one last glance over her shoulder. Clara turned her focus back to Jason. Everything in her wanted to take his hand, to bridge the gap Eric had carved between them, but panic bubbled to the surface. "What if he is right?" she whispered, her voice barely more than a breath. "What if I'm not strong enough to support you?" Jason's expression tightened, his eyes darkening with emotion. He leaned closer, his voice urgent. "You're already doing more than you know. Just being here with me, believing in me." He took a steadying breath before continuing. "It means everything." The sincerity in his words sent a flutter through Clara's chest. She couldn't shake the anxiety, but she fought to hold on to the courage she felt in his presence. "But what if the past catches up to us? What if I can't handle it? What if we're just setting ourselves up for a disaster?" His eyes softened, and he reached across the table, his fingers brushing against hers. The touch was electric, grounding. "Then we handle it together. I refuse to let my past dictate our future. Not when I have you." She wanted to believe him. The connection felt real, so different from anything she had experienced before. But still, doubt crept like a vine, wrapping around her heart and squeezing tight. Before she could voice any more of her fears, the waitress returned, setting down 2 steaming cups of coffee. "Sorry to interrupt," she said with a gentle smile, her voice bringing Clara back to the moment. "I couldn't help but notice how serious things got. Is everything really okay?" Jason glanced at Clara, then back at the waitress. "We're working things out. Thanks." A flicker of warmth crossed his face, and it anchored Clara for just a second. "Good," the waitress said cheerfully. She turned her attention to Clara, her smile easy and bright. "You know, my grandma always said that the things worth fighting for often come wrapped in a tough package. Something about how the sweetness is found inside." Clara felt a rush of heat flood her cheeks. The woman's words struck a chord deep within her. "That's beautiful," Clara replied, a hint of gratitude creeping into her voice. "Yeah, she was a wise lady," the waitress continued, her gaze drifting slightly, lost in thought. "She taught me that love is never just simple or perfect. It can hurt, but it's also the most powerful thing we've got. You just have to be brave enough to grab hold when you find it." Chills ran down Clara's spine. The waitress's unexpected wisdom felt like a lifeline. Maybe she didn't need to have all the answers right now. Maybe the path ahead would be riddled with bumps, but they could navigate it together. Just as she found the strength to smile back, Jason squeezed her hand gently. "See, even strangers can recognize what we have," he said softly, his smile warming her heart. But before Clara could respond, Eric's piercing voice broke through their moment like a clap of thunder. "You really think this sweet talk is going to change anything?" he said, sauntering back into view with a smirk plastered on his face. "You're both dreaming. Wake up before it's too late." Clara's stomach twisted as she faced Eric. Resilience rose within her, but uncertainty lingered. Would they truly withstand the impending storm, or would Eric's words haunt them? She looked to Jason, who met her gaze with an intensity that ignited a spark of hope. But before she could draw courage from that connection, her mind rushed with possibilities, the reality looming just outside their grasp. Could they really face this turmoil together? Or were they standing on the edge of a precipice, one where a single misstep could lead to a fall neither of them was prepared for? "I don't think we're dreaming at all," Jason shot back, his tone sharper than Clara had ever heard. He stood tall, confronting Eric with unyielding determination. Clara felt Jason's energy like a surge of electricity. It ignited something fierce within her. But alongside that, doubt still wove through her mind like a nagging whisper. What if Eric was right? What if this fragile moment could be shattered at any second? Eric stepped closer, leaning in with a sneer. You think a little strength from the waitress will save you? You're both in over your heads. Clara clenched her jaw and shook her head. You don't know anything about us. She shot back, surprising even herself with her boldness. The truth was clawing to get out the truth about how much she wanted this connection with Jason to become something real. A silence fell over their table, the atmosphere thick with tension. Jason held her gaze, an unspoken agreement passing between them. They were in this together, and they wouldn't back down. Yeah, back off, Jason stated, standing firm. We're not going to let you dictate our choices. Clara and I, he paused, his heart pounding through his words. We're building something meaningful here. Your opinion? It doesn't matter. Clara's heart soared a little as she felt Jason take a protective stance. It felt good, empowering. But another part of her quaked at the thought of Eric's influence still looming over them. Eric chuckled, but the amusement in his eyes was laced with malice. Good luck with that. Just remember, when you fall, and you will all be right here to remind you of your mistakes. With that chilling comment, Eric turned on his heel and walked away, leaving the air charged with uncertainty. Clara let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. I can't believe he is so relentless, Jason murmured, his voice low and heavy. But I choose you, Clara. I want us to fight for what we have together. Her chest tightened at the weight of his words. And if the past comes back for us? What if it tears apart everything we're trying to build? Then we deal with it. Head on, Jason replied, his eyes fierce and unwavering. I won't let my past consume this. I don't want to lose you. Clara's heart felt like it was going to burst. It was scary to open up, to think about a future that didn't feel certain yet. Yet, each moment with him pushed her closer to believing in something larger than herself. Can we really do this? She asked softly, her vulnerability laid bare. Together, he said, squeezing her hand again, and she felt hope blossoming alongside her fears. She wanted to feel brave enough to take that leap with him, uncertain as it might be. Suddenly, the waitress returned with a bright smile. Hey, everything okay? She asked, her energy lifting the earlier tension. Better now, Clara replied, her smile genuine. That's what I like to hear. The waitress chirped. Remember, things worth having are often worth the fight. As the waitress walked away, Jason's gaze shifted back to Clara, capturing her attention wholly. What do you want, Clara? What does your heart say? He asked, the intensity in his voice pulling her deeper into their moment. It was a question so simple yet weighted. What did she want? The thoughts rushed through her mind, warring between fear and desire. I want. She started, but just then, a loud bang echoed through the cafe, and they both turned toward the sound, tension tightening the air once more. Their world felt on the brink of change, and Clara's heart raced. What other surprise awaited them? Was the storm just beginning? Clara's pulse quickened as she scanned the cafe, searching for the source of the sound. It had been just a clatter a table fully set for a family of four had tipped over, the crash sending silverware skittering across the floor. Laughter and gasps erupted from nearby tables, but Clara felt her heart thud for a different reason. A sudden sense of urgency lit up in her chest. Are you okay? Jason asked, his voice low, but it absent-mindedly shifted her focus. She nodded, taking a deep breath to calm the anxiety rising in her throat. The moment felt fractured, the clarity they had shared just moments before precariously dangling. You know what? The waitress returned, kneeling down to help pick up the fallen plates. This happens all the time. Kids, am I right? She flashed a charming smile, attempting to revive the jovial energy of the cafe, but she caught Clara's eye. Actually, I'm glad you came back, Clara said, surprised at her own boldness. The waitress paused, brushing back a strand of hair that fell into her face, and her expression became serious, as though Clara's words hinted at something deeper. Yeah? What is going on? She asked softly, leaning in a bit closer and momentarily ignoring the mess. Clara faltered, feeling the weight of her thoughts wanting to spill out. Can I ask your advice? How do you know if something is worth fighting for? The waitress's smile faded, replaced by a knowing look. You feel it, you know? Look at what you're willing to endure to keep it. If the feeling is strong enough to push through the doubt, it's worth keeping close. Clara felt a rush of understanding. But what if the past keeps haunting you? How do you let go? That's a tricky one. The waitress hesitated, glancing at Jason, who was watching intently. Sometimes, it's about finding the right people to help you. You know, the right connections. Connections? Jason echoed, his brow furrowing. Yeah, people who anchor you when the storms blow in, she replied, her gaze flicking back to Clara. You two obviously have something special. Don't let anything take that away. With that, she stood up, her spirit unwavering. And remember, if it feels right, even if it's hard, it's worth it. Clara felt a weight lifting, a newfound energy igniting her doubts. She turned to Jason, who looked at her with a fire in his eyes, a silent understanding passing between them. Did you hear that? She whispered, her heart swelling. This thing between us, we can make it work. Jason nodded, his dark eyes alive with hope. We will. I won't let anything from my past tear us apart. Just then, the door swung open, and a gust of wind swept through the cafe, drawing everyone's attention. The chatter stilled, replaced by an uneasy silence. Clara turned her head and felt her stomach drop. A sharp figure stepped in, casting a long shadow across the room. It was Eric, back with a determined stride. What now? Jason muttered under his breath, his body tensing beside her. I don't know, Clara whispered, dread pooling in her gut. Eric's gaze scanned the cafe until it landed squarely on them. A cruel smile spread across his face, and Clara's breath caught in her throat. Whatever was coming, she sensed it would shatter the fragile hope that had just begun to bloom between her and Jason. As she locked eyes with Eric, Clara's world felt unsteady once again. What did he want? Could he ruin everything they'd just started to build? More questions surged in her mind like a tidal wave. Would they be able to stand together against the storm about to break? The moment hung heavy in the air, and Clara knew this was it. Would they sink or swim? What was coming next could change everything. Clara's heart raced as Eric walked toward them. The playful chatter faded into an ominous silence, leaving only the pounding of her pulse. She glanced at Jason, whose jaw was set in determination, an unspoken promise to not let anything tear them apart. Hey, Jason, Eric called, his tone dripping with mockery. Thought I'd find you sulking over here. Still stuck on your little adventure? As he approached, Clara felt every eye in the diner shift to them. Her cheeks burned with the weight of judgment, but Jason didn't flinch. Leave. Jason's voice was steady, slicing through the mounting tension. I don't want to hear anything from you. The words hung in the air as a proclamation. Jason was ready to fight, and it filled Clara with a sense of unexpected courage. Oh, come on. You can't really think you're going to make this work. Eric leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. You think you can just come out here, stick your nose in, and change your life? You are just a distraction to him, and I'm here to remind him. Those words cut Clara deeply, but she refused to let the doubt seep in. I'm not a distraction, she shot back, surprising even herself with her confidence. I'm not a stepping stone for someone to feel good about themselves. Jason met her gaze, an electric connection sparking between them. Clara's right. You don't get to define us, Eric. Just because you can't see past your own insecurities doesn't mean we're the same. You don't own me. The intensity of Jason's words set a fire in Clara's heart. She stood taller, refusing to let Eric's negativity tarnish what felt so pure and genuine between her and Jason. We're building something real here, and you can't take that away from us. The kitchen staff and other patrons shifted, intrigue bubbling in the atmosphere. The waitress from earlier watched with wide eyes, admiration swirling in her gaze, as if she understood the significance of this stand. All right, boys, let us not make a scene, Eric replied, dismissive of their strength. Just know I'll be waiting when this little fairy tale crumbles. He turned to leave, but as he stepped away, Clara felt a growing wave of defiance rise within her. Wait, she called after him, her voice reverberating with newfound clarity. You may think you have all the answers about who we are, but your opinion doesn't shape our reality. We are what we make of ourselves, not what others decide for us. Jason's look of surprise melted into pride. He stepped closer, his presence radiating comfort as he threaded his fingers with Clara's. Their bond felt rooted, and with his support, the doubts she harbored began to lift like morning fog. Eric paused, his back toward them, frustration evident, but he spoke without turning around. Good luck when you need it. Clara turned to Jason, her heart lighter as the tension in the room slowly dissipated. Did we really just do that? Yeah, we did, Jason replied, his grin wide and genuine. You were incredible. Their fingers intertwined tightly, a silent vow of togetherness. As the noise of the cafe returned, a warmth blossomed in Clara's chest. She felt as if a weight had been lifted, not just by standing up to Eric, but by embracing the uncertainty together. It was a step toward vulnerability, accepting what might come without backing down. Clara is everything? The waitress returned, eyes bright with a knowing smile. It's okay now, Clara replied, her spirit soaring. Better than okay, actually. Good, the waitress chuckled, and the uplifting energy spread like wildfire. Just remember, fairy tales take work, and so do the good things we choose. Clara felt the truth of those words settle in her heart, a promise of what it could take to nurture something precious. She looked at Jason, who met her gaze with warmth. They weren't finished yet, but every moment spent fighting off doubt brought them closer together. As they sat in their booth in the heart of the diner, surrounded by the smells of pancakes and coffee, Clara let her guardian walls slowly slip away. In the corner of her heart, a quiet confidence began to bloom, the belief that love, trust, and community could create something lasting together. And when Jason leaned in closer, she felt excitement sweep over her like the perfect spring breeze. You want to get out of here? He asked, genuine hope dancing in his eyes. Absolutely, Clara replied, her spirit ignited with the daring to chase what lies ahead, embracing the challenge of a true partnership with him. As they walked toward the door, she knew they would face whatever came next together, proving the strength of their connection could light their way forward, come what may. This was just the beginning. So if you found hope in this story, and you're ready to be inspired by what's yet to come, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. Hit that button and don't miss any exclusive stories that can light your heart. Leave a like now to help energize the algorithm and spread these messages further. Comment below with your thoughts on the transformation you witnessed. It matters to us. And share instantly with at least 5 friends who need inspiration. Don't wait, not even one more second. Support us, because true fans of this journey understand the power of lifting each other up together.